Perhaps the most interesting thing about the Kroot is their biology. A key part of their evolution is that they eat the flesh of and absorb the traits of other species. So eat a bit of orc and become more hench. And so in this video I want to look at what happens when they do this. In one example, they eat part of a genestealer. Will that pull them into the hive mind? The other asks if they absorb psyker powers from the aeldari. And what else might they add to evolve themselves in that situation? So, welcome friends to another 40k video. First, a little bit of background about the Kroot. Their homeworld is Pesh, and an early part of their evolution was the orc ship that crashed there. They were eaten. This allowed the Kroot to build the first Kroot city, and with their orc DNA, they had a lot of mech boy in them, so they could use orc technology, and so they built greater cities and became warp capable. They joined with the Tau when the orcs began to occupy their world in M38. The brave Tau aided them on the world of Krath, and from there they became allies and joined together. Regarding their biology, that works by the ability to alter the DNA from their food and bring it into their own genetic makeup. Sometimes this is helpful, other times this can be a DNA dead end, and this eating of food has a religious aspect to it. When a warrior of any race dies, they keep the warrior's spirit alive by eating their flesh. Now first, can a Kroot eat Tyranid DNA and not become part of the hive mind? In the short story Forbidden Meal, we get an answer. A Kroot comes across a genestealer's body, and Skeeth can't resist the bodies he sees and eats some. His mind exploded, his cells sang. All external input was drowned out by the flavours in his mouth. Images assailed him, the final thoughts of creatures of instinct and hunger. For a moment he was seized by the urge to yowl, to pounce. He swallowed. The flesh travelled down his gullet, lighting up his insides, remaking him into something better, stronger. Although he knew logically that such a transformation didn't happen so quickly, he couldn't shake the sensation, so it does have an interesting effect. And elsewhere in the same story, another Kroot, Kroot, eats some in front of Skeeth. And in him, Kroot stared down at his own hands, his eyes going wide as the abomination's memories flooded through him, overwriting his personality with the need to consume and kill everything in his path. Now I see it. I feel it working within me. Their knowledge and power will be mine, he said, in a voice raw with awe. And Skeeth says, "You've consumed forbidden flesh," he said at last. "Your evolution ends here. I sentence you to death." They fight, and Kroot grew stronger as the fight went on, but Skeeth managed to break his neck. This is viewed as contamination, and Kroot's body will be disposed as the hive mind had contaminated it. So yes, it can take over a Kroot potentially, and from this day forward, the flesh of Tyranids will be forbidden to the Kroot. But what about aeldari for psyker powers, or marines for physical enhancements? This is in the short story Primal Instinct by Sarah Corkwell. Here the Silver Skulls, a Space Marine chapter, are following in the footsteps of the Eldar, who are seeking something on the planet. They find an Eldari's soul stone, not knowing their true purpose. They find the body of a fellow Astartes and see that specific organs within the body have been removed. The soul stone speaks to one of these Silver Skulls with a warning that they want to absorb what you are. When these genestealers attack the Marines, there's less of them than there first appears to be. This was because some are illusions cast into the minds of the Silver Skulls. They work out who are the illusions and win, and as part of a trophy for that win, one of the Silver Skulls takes a skull, and then they find out this. The skull is neither aeldari or genestealer, it's another race's. The moment the head and body parted, there was a hazy shimmering, and the unknown alien's body was replaced by something entirely more recognisable. Behan realised it first, but the others were not very far behind him. An illusion, the prognosticator breathed. It's woven a psychic disguise around itself. Indeed, the headless body on the ground was almost definitely that of a Kroot. It had the same wiry, sinewy build and avian-like features that matched every image that had ever been flashed at them through indoctrination tapes and training sessions. It was imbued with psychic powers. Unheard of, at least in the Silver Skull's experience. Reports and research had never been suggested that the Kroot, the fierce mercenary warrior troops regularly employed by the Tau armies, were psychic. Moreover, this Kroot wore no harness, carried no weapon. It was far more primitive than what they expected of such beings. An evolutionary throwback maybe, but one in possession of something perhaps far more deadly than a rifle or any other kind of physical weapon. A feral colony world? Journalists made the suggestion first. A breed of Kroot who have taken a different genetic path to their brethren. Then a thought occurred to the sergeant. When Reuben shot that other one in the head, it did not change its shape or form, did it? The cerebral connection remained intact, Behennon commented absently. Brother Reuben obliterated its brain, yes. However, he didn't disconnect the spinal cord. Nerve impulses continued to flow after death. The mental disguise it wove remained stable until full brain death. We didn't stay there long enough to witness it change back. Behennon nodded slowly. What if it were to assimilate a psychic species, say the aeldari? He held up the red stone so that all the battle brothers could see it. What could stop it from killing and eating one of the aeldari? What would prevent it from the freedom to filter out the required genetic strands that they would give it the most useful result? And later one of them has a revelation. Why these started organs were taken earlier. The sudden truth of what the murderer had wanted with Wulfric's body hit the prognosticator head-on. A Kroot, with the psychic abilities and memories of an aeldari, would have had some knowledge of Astartes' physiology, even if only as a basic, barely recalled memory. Imagine then a Kroot with the psychic abilities and memories of an aeldari, and the strength and resilience of a space marine. Behenn straightened his shoulder and bent down to pick up the head of the Kroot. Thanks to the reckoners, such a thing would never come to pass, and as the Thunderhawk lifted off, Behenn feels a push against the wards he had put into place. Tall, seemingly all whipcord muscle and sinew, the huge Kroot stood boldly in direct sight of the Thunderhawk. To all intents and purposes it was little difference to its kin, but it was not difficult to surmise that it was a more powerful, or at least a more evolved strain of these twisted Xenos. A cloak of stitched animal hide was slung around its shoulders, and in one hand it held a crudely fashioned staff from which hung feathers and trinkets of decoration. A number of stones also dangled from the staff, stones that looked remarkably like the very ones in the psyker's hand. He doesn't take a chance to lift off, but they say the planet must be cleansed. Let me know what you think to this Kroot lore and how they might develop within the setting. And if you like this video on 40k, then why not try this one? And if you want a whole bunch of videos on 40k, messed up there, on 40k, then why not check out the playlists on the channel? There are two. One covers specifically the Dark Age of technology, the other has everything in it. I also cover Trench Crusade, that shares a lot of DNA with 40k. And I also cover, in the past, Dune, keep coming back to that when I have a good idea. And I also have a playlist for the Expanse books and TV series, mostly the books, and a short playlist for the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio and Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And that, my friend, is the last moment in this video.